Greetings, guys, gals, non-binary pals, and welcome back to another video. And my first video back home after my 5 weeks in New Zealand. I am here a little bit jet lagged and also a year older. I am now 26. Woo! And I thought the first video I would film after my return home and after turning 26 would be revisiting this conservative YouTuber that I talked about a few years ago and was really curious about what she was up to. And that is this person named Gothix, a conservative goth, because, you know, that makes sense. And unsurprisingly, her content has not gotten any better. She has not educated herself at all in any way. She is still sitting down and just saying the most ridiculous stuff. I don't know if you remember Gothix, if you were here when I uploaded my video about Gothix, but to jog your memory a little bit, she is the person whom her two takes that I remember the most that are so funny to me is saying that she doesn't like representation. Like, the thing that turned her conservative in the first place, because she used to be a radical leftist, was the fact that they cast a black woman as Ariel, and she didn't like that, so she went MAGA, because representation is stupid and pointless and ridiculous, and to prove that we don't need representation and that we already have enough black people in films. She's black, by the way. So, like, that adds a whole layer, right? She, to prove that point, quite literally Googled black actors and then scrolled through Google Images. And that was her proof as to why we don't need representation, because there are already black actors.
We're gonna get into it, and we're gonna start this off by talking about representation, which I think is the most insulting thing to say, especially in terms of Hollywood. We lack representation in movies. Yeah, really? Really? Uh-huh. Tell me more lies.
And that's still to me is one of the funniest things I have ever witnessed whilst making these videos. It's so funny. So yeah, that is what we're gonna do today. I accidentally sat down and spent 2 full days watching her videos, and I wrote like 8,000 words about 6 different videos, and I am not going to have time to do all of that today. That script will be up on Patreon if you are interested in having all of my thoughts and things about all of these videos, if you want to check that out at patreon.com/savvycat. Or also, alternatively, I can also do a second video if you would like to see that. Let me know. Other than that, let's get into it. Okay, the first video of hers that I clicked on after 2 years of forgetting that she existed is this one that's just titled, "This is Bad." The intro to this video is one of the most batshit things I've ever seen, so hold on to your horses because you're in for a treat for this intro. Okay.
I, Zahran Kwame Mamdani,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States, so help me God.
And those who commit evil in the name of Allah blaspheme the name of Allah.
Oh my god. Starting this video off by showing Mamdani like swearing in as mayor on the Quran, right? Because, spoiler, that's what this video is about. Showing that clip and then flashing to 9/11 with a fart sound is, I like struggle to find words to describe just the absolute ridiculousness and offensiveness and just like overall fucked upness of that intro, because sorry oh my god. So yeah, that really, I think, sums up what this video is going to be pretty nicely, and also I think just really says a lot about her character. Sometimes people say and do things that you just need that, And then you like know everything you need to know about them. And this is one of those moments. She hasn't even said anything, and I already know everything I need to know about who she is as a person just from that. But let's see what she has to say.
The Constitution is not a suicide pact, because a lot of the commentary that I'm seeing surrounding Zoran getting sworn into office by swearing on the Quran is that, well, America has freedom of religion. And it's like, okay, you don't actually believe that. Because if I were to say, okay, here's a religion that is in favor of people who are non-Muslims, that is in favor of pedophilia, that is in favor of beating women if they don't submit to their husbands, you would have something to say against that. I think any logical person would say, that is foul.
I didn't even clock to the fact that she was like referencing Islam and trying to be like, this is what Islam is and why it's bad, because girl, the call is coming from inside the house. Maybe in your individual experience, that's not what Christianity is, but the amount of like biblical people that I talk about on this channel and the amount of Christian bullshit that I see, which is telling women they have to submit to their husbands and do everything that they say. And yes, that sometimes does include being beaten by their husbands. If not physically, then definitely emotionally. It is so many people talking about how women have to accept their places when it comes to the power of their husbands. That is within Christianity. Yeah, that may not be something that you fuck with, but don't act like that's not a very core part to a lot of people and how they practice your religion. And then the implication that there is not like pedophilia that happens within Christianity. Are we just ignoring the amount of pastors who are pedophiles and who sexually abuse children? Because like Pope Francis made a statement a few years ago that it's 2% of pastors. 2%. 1 in 50 pastors are pedophiles. Like, these are people in like places of power within like your religion. The call is coming from inside the house, babe. like be for real for a minute, okay? Yeah? And let's also not forget that your God is the same. You have the same God. You like worship him differently, but it comes from like the religion stems from the same place and you are worshiping the same God. And like, just like you yourself do not promote beating women for not submitting to their husbands or like pedophilia, and you condemn those things, even though other people within your religion participate in those and will actively say that it is like part of their religion, you don't. You condemn that and you say that that's not part of your faith and that those people are, you know, going about their religion wrong. Muslims do that too. Right? Including like Zoran Mamdani. He is one of those people who obviously does not advocate for beating women for not submitting to their husbands. He does not advocate for these like terrible things that you are condemning, right? Because everyone is an individual and everyone follows their own faith differently. And there are going to be shitty people within every religion or non-religion. Like, it doesn't matter if you are Muslim, if you are Christian, Jewish, Hindi, like, none of that fucking matters. There are shitty people everywhere. And there are also good people everywhere. Yeah?
And Islam, I've said this many times on my channel, is not compatible with the West. It's just not.
I personally would argue that religion in general at this point in time is not super compatible with the West or society as a whole. This is a like coming from a personal perspective as like a strong atheist, right? I have nothing wrong with people who practice religion and believe in God or whatever, but I think religion in the like society that we have now, where we have like science and have learned answers to so many things, the idea of having a God makes a lot less sense to me now, right? Like, I understand why religion was created and where it came from, because people didn't understand how anything worked. Like, suddenly there's water falling from the sky. you don't know how that happened. No one had any answers. And it was like, oh my God, obviously there's like someone somewhere is pouring water out of the sky. It must be attributed to like something that we do. You know, like there were so many questions and there was no answers. And so people came up with, you know, gods and things in order to explain the unexplainable. But at this point in time, we have figured out the answer to so many questions. And I think a lot of people now hold on to religion more for an afterlife perspective, less than like an explaining how everything works perspective, which is, in those cases, I kind of understand where people are coming from, right? Like it's more about having like a comfort and a connection and like not feeling alone and feeling like there is something more, right? Like I do understand why people are still religious outside of, you know, maybe their upbringing. It just has like a comfort for a lot of people. But in general, I think that religion does not coincide so much with society in general so much anymore, whether that be Islam, Christianity, Judaism, like whatever. Like in general, I just feel like there is less of a place for it, or at least there needs to be less of a place for it, because there's so many more atheists now than there ever have been before. We can't be running society based off of beliefs that a majority of people don't hold. But on the basis that Christianity is suitable for the West and Islam is not suitable for the West, I'm really intrigued to hear why she thinks that Islam and Christianity are so different. They belong on completely different sides of the world. Like, why is Islam not compatible with the West? What makes it so different that it just doesn't work? I am very curious to hear her answer.
We believe in free speech. Islam does not. Just for one example.
This is a question I'm going to be asking a lot throughout this video, and that is, can you provide a source for that? Can you show me where in the Quran it says they're against free speech and where in the Bible it says they are pro-free speech? Because when I Googled this, the answers I got were that it doesn't say in either the Bible or the Quran anything about free speech. Not really. It doesn't actually reference free speech in either of those books. However, the search results and the websites that were like going into talking about the foundations and like what they were talking about in these books, when I was looking at the Bible and people's interpretation around free speech, it said that it was against free speech. It was more opposed to free speech than it was for free speech. Whereas the people talking about the Quran said it was more for free speech. So I'm gonna have to call you out on this and say, if this is your example, like your single example, why Islam doesn't work in the West, you're just automatically incorrect because you don't know what it says in the Bible, you don't know what it says in the Quran, and you are completely wrong, and yet you sit here and say it so confidently. If I can find that information out that quickly about your book of faith, maybe you should know. Maybe before you quote what you are supposed to believe in, you should actually know what it says about it.
You need to understand that his God is different from our God or your God, and everyone has a God. That's the fun part. All you atheists, you have a God too, it's just you.
It's a problem he swore on the Quran because he has a different God. But we all have a different God. But it's a problem because his God is different to the Christian God. Girl, I'm not Christian. I mean, I'm not American either, so this doesn't really impact me. But like, in this hypothetical situation of which I am, or I'm speaking on behalf of non-Christian Americans, right? People who swear in on the Bible are still swearing in on a different God to my own God, because apparently, according to you, I am my own God, and no one's swearing in on me. No mayor's sitting there being like, I swear on Kiwi's life. Like, so it's gonna be a different God every time. You just don't like that it's not your God. And even, is it not the same God? I feel like, I don't want to start a religious feud, but it is the same God, right? They come from the same place. Like, they started as the same God. They just believe in him differently. No? Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, this point is irrelevant. It is irrelevant.
If you look throughout the founding document, and if you read a lot of the quotes from our founding fathers, the majority of them had an understanding of where our human rights came from. When they founded this country, it was with the God of the Bible in mind. They all had a common unified understanding that there is a God, and that was the basis of their of the country that we have now. All that to say, you can't just come in and swap with a different God and think that America is going to continue to function in the way that it has. I'm not going to say that America right now is a Christian nation. Absolutely not. This is a mess, okay? We have seen the fruits of a secular society for the last couple of decades. We've been seeing this, okay? People don't even know what gender they are. That's not Christianity, okay? That's secularism, okay?
She is so all over the place. It doesn't make any sense. She's trying to prove her point by like saying stuff that's just like not related and doesn't actually back her up at all, and it just doesn't work. Just a moment ago, she was like, we all have a different God, but he's swearing it on the Quran, which is not the Christian God, so that's a problem. Irrelevant, because I'm not Christian. And then now she's saying that American society, like as it is now, was built on Christianity. The people who wrote the Constitution were Christian. Their laws are based on Christianity. Society has a Christian base to it, which yes, that is true. That is true for a lot of, you know, the like European sort of world, right? Like our society and foundations are built on Christianity. That is why we all celebrate like Christmas, whether you're Christian or not, right? Like that is not incorrect. However, then moving on to saying, I'm not saying we're a Christian country anymore. Trans people exist and people are confused about their gender and they're making laws that help trans people. That's not Christian. So then it doesn't matter because Christian people swear in on the Bible and then enact laws that aren't Christian. So therefore, by that same logic, Muslim people swearing in on the Quran are not necessarily going to like implement Muslim law. Because people, as I said before, know now that we live in a society where you cannot base everything around religion because we have progressed further than that. So much of what exists now did not exist at the time the Bible was written. You can't be basing laws and everything off of a book that doesn't include like technology. Society just doesn't work like that anymore. And so yes, there's like this Christian base in a lot of our countries, but we are so diverse now in these parts of the world, and in like the US, there's so much cultural diversity that it just like doesn't work. Like yes, sometimes, you know, people are basing their morals and the things that they are putting forwards on their faith, but it has to be more than that because we have come further. And like I said, it clearly doesn't make a difference whether you swear it on the Bible or not, because if they're not instilling like Christian laws, then did it really make a difference?
And so here's my question, New York, what happened to never forget? You forgot, apparently. Yeah, Zoran had nothing to do with 9/11, but Islam certainly did.
Just gobsmacked. How in the big year of 2026 is this still something people are like saying and believing? It's just astounding to me. Do you know how many atrocities I could name that are like because of Christianity and because of Christian people who are doing things in the name of God? Because it's a lot. It's a lot. There are so many like genocides that happen at the hands of people for the sake of Christianity. There are so many like recent and current like mass shootings that happen by Christian people in the name of God. So like you want to use this one example, there are so many examples I could give of Christians. Don't fuck off with this double standard. My good lord. He wasn't involved, but Islam was. Fuck you. Okay, so now that we've had that great introduction to gothix and her most recent video, you know a little bit more about her now. I talked about that for way longer than I was intending to. I just get so carried away. I have another video. I've got a few more if we can get through them all. And this one is called Losing Friends After Leaving the Left. Let's have a look, see what she has to say about this.
My name is Vanessa, and I used to be a radical leftist until I started questioning things going on within the Democrat Party.
Stop, pause. I'm gonna have to stop you right there. Already, You have completely undermined yourself and told me straight up you were never a radical leftist. You were never a radical leftist. You were a Democrat. That's not a radical leftist. Even a little bit. You were liberal, not even a leftist, let alone a radical leftist. So, no.
If you have found the truth and you understand that something is the way that it is, accept that some people are not going to accept that, okay? This could be your friends. It could be your family members. It is not your job to hold their hand and get them to see the light. You will drain yourself by doing that.
Which is exactly why you lose friends. That is exactly why you lose friends. Like, this is why leftists and, like, conservatives aren't friends, because they don't want to hold your hand and explain to you why your perspective is fucked up, because you won't listen. Especially if you're someone who has like left the left, because you should already know. And like, they're not going to sit there and explain to you something that you should already know. And if you're sitting there and being like, oh, but this is just wrong and I just don't think those people should have rights, they're not going to sit here and tell you, yes, they should. That's fucked up of you to say, because you know that already. And it's just like not worth their effort, and they just don't want to be associated with you because you're being a bad person, and they don't want to like be supportive of a bad person.
So what I would recommend is that you extend some grace to them. So in the process of these people cutting you off and probably slandering you as a racist, a white supremacist, a Nazi, whatever, because these people love to categorize anyone who questions their progressive agenda as being in the camp of Nazis. While they're doing that to you, extend them some grace.
As soon as you turn conservative, your leftist friends are going to start calling you like racist and transphobic and like putting you in the camp of Nazis. They're not doing that overnight, and they're not doing that for no reason. Your friends are going to call you racist when you're being racist. They're going to like call you a bigot when you are saying bigoted shit. I'm just a little bit confused, because is this something that like happens overnight? Like you snap overnight, you go from radical leftist to conservative like that? Because if that is happening, you absolutely never held any leftist beliefs in the first place, because you were able to like change your mind so quickly and hold no remnants of that belief system at all. Was it like a slow burn move over there? Like, were you having conversations with your friends, or did you just suddenly decide that all of your beliefs were actually different to what you were leading them to believe they were for all of this time? Because if you come out to your friends and are like, oh, by the way, I've decided that I actually want to vote Donald Trump, and I don't think that trans people are real, and I don't think that black people should be getting roles in movies that are for white people. Like, if you're saying all of this to your friends, they're gonna call you out. On that last example, right, to just be a little bit more specific, I said sort of briefly what made her turn conservative in the first place is right at the beginning, right? So the thing that made her conservative is when Disney announced that the actress cast for Ariel was black, and Gothix expressed that she didn't like that. She didn't agree with that. She thought that, you know, it was pandering, and that it is just like the woke left taking over, and that role should be a white person because Ariel is white. And her friends, you know, would have called her racist for that and told her that that is like a racist belief to hold, because it is. Like, they called you racist because you were being racist, right? You can say that in a very ignorant way, right? Like, I don't think necessarily saying a racist thing makes you racist. So she could have said that, and her friends could have said to her, hey, that is a racist thing you just said, and here is why. And if she then doesn't listen to that and stays on that point and like uses that to then further accumulate more viewpoints with that same mentality, then she just is racist. You know what I mean? Like, you can say something that's ignorant because you haven't really thought about it, but then you educate yourself and you realize why that was wrong, and you learn and grow from it. But she did the opposite of that. She said something, she was called racist, she didn't like that she was called racist, and then she just continued to get more racist beliefs. So you're going to be called out for it. That's why they were calling you racist, because you were being racist. Because this is the thing with like that whole situation, right? And situations like it, is that the reason it is racist is because you don't think a black person should have been cast as Ariel. Why? Why do you automatically assume that it's pandering? Why do you assume she only got that role because she was black and Disney wanted to have like a black Ariel just for the sake of diversity? Why is it so impossible to believe that she just had the best audition? Why do you not believe that she was the most qualified for the role? She had the best audition. She like fit the part the best in terms of like the acting and the singing, etc. Because she did a phenomenal job as Ariel. She was fantastic. What if there were white people who auditioned and they were just shit at being Ariel? She was just the best person for the role. You assuming that it was for the sake of diversity is you being racist. Black people, believe it or not, are capable of being the best at something. And the implication that a white person just would have been better and done the job better is racist. And if you refuse to like internalize that and accept that, and instead you hold on to that belief and then apply it in other places, you've gone from saying a racist thing to being a racist person, right? And that is the problem. And that is why you lose friends, and that is why they call you racist. Because it is true. I also just in general don't understand this thing of like conservatives being so pissed when like leftists don't want to be friends with them anymore, because like, what do you talk about then? I just don't understand. Like, your political beliefs and your moral compass is something that like guides you in life. It colors the way that you see the world. And the only thing I can really think of and why, you know, as she said, it doesn't go in reverse is because conservatives don't care about things. They care about themselves and like not much else, right? Whereas like we care about things. And so like a lot of the conversations that I have revolve around politics and talking about, you know, the deeper things in life and like the way the world looks and, you know, hopes and aspirations and the way we are impacted by the world. Like, I talk about how I see the world with my friends. And I can't do that with someone who views the world in such a different way. It just will not work. We would never have a good conversation. The only conversations we could have would be so shallow. It would be like small talk, and I'm not interested in having that type of relationship. It's exhausting, and it like brings me nothing. They are unfulfilling, shallow relationships. So like, is that the only type of relationship conservatives have? Are they only capable of having skin deep relationships where they don't like ever talk about bigger things? I just don't understand. You can't be friends when you like view the world so differently because you don't have anything to talk about unless you just don't care. I am only near the beginning of this video, but I'm going to move into a different one. There are two more that I like wanted to talk about after I refined this script down, but I really think I'm only gonna have time to talk about one more. So if you want a part 2, please let me know in the comments. And oh my God, actually, I also found out she has a documentary. This woman has a documentary on Prime, which is, why? How? It's a documentary about going from being a like radical leftist to conservative and like the backlash that she received for that, and like how she now like dedicates her life to like telling the truth despite losing friends. And it's like an hour and a half long on Prime documentary. So if you want me to watch that documentary, please leave a like. If I get 8K likes on this video, I will watch her documentary. I will sit down and I will suffer through that. And we can talk about it together and unpack it, because I am kind of intrigued, but I need a motivator because I also feel like it's gonna suck. Okay, anyways, I'm going to move into the third and final video, which is called Transphobia Isn't Real.
Transphobia. Why it doesn't exist. It's worth noting here that phobia means fear, and 90% of the time when people say transphobia, they're not actually describing fear. They're describing some type of bigotry or violence or something. You know, it's not fear. I ain't afraid of nobody. All right.
I'm kind of obsessed with her starting this video by trying to sound smart by throwing out a definition of the word by being like, people are so stupid. They call me transphobic. They say transphobia, and phobia means to be afraid, and I am not afraid of anyone. We aren't afraid of trans people. They're saying transphobia to talk about bigotry, not fear. Girl, it takes 1 second to look up the definition of the word phobia. It will tell you that it is not only an extreme fear, but also an extreme aversion, as in an extreme dislike. So transphobia does not mean you are afraid of trans people. It means that you have you dislike trans people. You have an extreme aversion to trans people and the existence of being trans, which is accurate. You can't sit here and be like, I'm so clever and you're so dumb by saying something that you didn't even take 1 second to check.
In order for me to believe in transphobia, I would have to first believe in the idea of trans. And I don't. When people say, well, you're denying my existence as a trans person, to that I would say, yes, I am. I am denying the existence and legitimacy of this concept of trans.
So then, by definition, you would be averse to the idea of trans people. So thus, transphobic. And also, hate to break this to you, just because you don't believe in something doesn't mean it's not real. I could sit here and say that I don't believe in the existence of the color pink. It still exists though, doesn't it? I'm wearing pink right now. But if I say I don't believe in it and no, this isn't pink, it's actually orange, does that make it orange? No, it just means that I've said a stupid thing, right? Whether I believe it or not doesn't matter. It's quite literally real, and it is right here. Some things you just, you don't get to pick and choose what you believe in when it exists.
Because what is it you're trying to describe here? You are still describing a man or a woman.
I mean, first, yeah, when you are describing trans, you are still describing a man and a woman. That is correct. Trans women and women, trans men and men. We are still describing men and women.
If you get more specific, you can say man who is confused about their gender, woman who is struggling with her identity. Either way, it's a man or a woman. Back in my day, a lot of people said that this was a mental disorder. Gender dysphoria is something that affects you psychologically. If we take that argument and say, okay, this is a trans woman, does that mean that this is an anorexic woman? Does that mean that this is a depressed woman? If you were going to keep adding this label that your mental disorder is somehow making you into a different breed of human, then we have to apply that logic to literally every other single category, and we don't do that.
I got really confused watching this. She's like, you say that she's a depressed woman, an anorexic woman? Yes, I do, because that's accurate. I'm confused. Yes, I do say I am a depressed woman. I am a traumatized woman. I am an anxious, these are all things that I would describe myself with. Does it make me a different breed? No, but being trans doesn't make you a different breed either. We're all just people. It affects the way that we move through life. And they aren't the same thing, right? Obviously, being depressed and being trans are not the same thing. Being trans is not a mental disorder. It's not a mental illness. Gender dysphoria, it is a mental struggle, right? That is something that people struggle with psychologically. And I think that it's just frustrating in so many ways. I have so many thoughts on the way people treat mental health and talk about mental health, right? And obviously being trans is not a mental illness, right? It is just, you just are a trans person, and that is fine. That is okay, right? We are all different and we all require different things in our lives to make us happy and to make us feel like ourselves. And when people are struggling with anything, the thing that you do for them is to help them. And I've mentioned this before, right? But if you want to compare, anorexic women and depressed women and trans women, keeping in mind those are all different things. What do? You treat that, right? You help them. And the way you help an anorexic person is you don't just give them food, because that's not how that works. It's a whole thing, right? You have to help them to get through their, anorexia and their eating disorder. You help the depressed person overcome depression, or at least learn to manage it better. To help someone with gender dysphoria, you help them no longer struggle with the gender dysphoria, which means you give them gender affirmation, right? To help people struggling with gender dysphoria, you don't just keep making their gender dysphoria worse. You like give them treatment for the gender dysphoria, which is gender affirmation. So if there is a like trans woman who is struggling with gender dysphoria, then you like help affirm the fact that they are a woman, like whatever that entails for them, then their gender dysphoria is going to lessen, right? So like when it comes to anything that is causing you distress or unhappiness or like psychological damage, you do what you can to improve that and make that person's life better. And by just telling a trans person that they are mentally ill, what are you helping? All you are doing is denying them the treatment for something that is causing them distress, right? If the solution is gender affirmation, what is you taking that away from them going to do? I just don't understand the logic that these people have. It's a mental disorder, so you should treat it as such. Okay, well, the treatment for mental disorders is to like help them overcome it, which is exactly what gender affirmation is. It's and this is something that extends out into so many facets, right? Like I said, the way people talk about mental health and mental illness is incredibly infuriating. And it's always been so prominent in society, and it's always kind of been a part of like mainstream internet culture and such. But I think a lot of people don't even realize how much that they do it and in how many places they take that out and are like actively like shaming people for being mentally ill. Like one of the things I see happen a lot, for example, and something that impacts me personally is like, you know, I struggle with a lot of mental health shit, right? And so like one of the things that brings me a lot of joy is like concerts. And so I will go to like 10 of the same concert and people are like, that's mental illness. That's mental illness. Like, that's not normal. That's mental illness. You see people posting, like, their rooms that they've decorated to something that they love. Like, they've dedicated their space to something that they love. People are like, that's mental illness. That's not something to be proud of. That's mental illness. I could never. That's mental. It's like, that's mentally ill behavior. And it's like, yeah, I'm mentally ill. What do you want me to fucking do about it, bro? Like, if going to 10 concerts is going to alleviate the pain and stress of living with like PTSD and depression, anxiety, like etc. If that is something that is going to give me the dopamine that I am like lacking in my life, I can acknowledge that doing this is in fact a result of, you know, being neurodivergent and like looking at life differently and going through life differently and struggling with different things. But if that brings me joy when other things don't, why do you feel good about like making fun of me for that? Why do you feel good about telling people, like laughing at people and being like, that's mental illness? What do you want them to do about it? What's the alternative? The alternative is, okay, not doing that thing. And then what? They're just sitting in their depression or whatever they're struggling with. They're just sitting with that, unable to do anything to make themselves feel better because you've told them that they're not allowed to. They just have to be normal, right? Like telling someone who is experiencing life differently, struggling with a mental illness, who has, you know, is neurodivergent, has ADHD or has autism, who is trans, who any of these things, like you're telling people that they aren't allowed to live their lives in a specific way that is like helping make them feel better about the way they live their lives and giving them joy because you don't like it and you don't understand it. It doesn't make sense. And again, I'm not saying that being trans is a mental illness, right? I'm just saying they go through life differently. And if there is something that is going to help them feel better in who they are and like bring joy to them and help them move past this like struggle that they have with themselves, then what good does it do to take that away from them and to not let them have that? Why is like saying that it's like mental illness, like what's that gonna do? What's the solution if not gender affirmation? What is the outcome that you want? If you are saying that gender dysphoria is a mental illness and it should be treated as such, what do you want to do about it? If it's not gender affirmation, what does it look like? Just telling them, no, you're not a woman, you're a man. Deal with it. You don't think they've tried that? You don't think they've been telling themselves that their entire fucking lives? Do you not think that they have like hoped that that was true? Because that's a struggle that so many trans people go with, is wishing that were true. But it's not. No one is choosing to be trans, right? And telling them that it's not real and that they're just, you know, mentally ill doesn't help anyone. If someone is struggling, give them the cure. And that is gender affirmation. That is support and love and acceptance. And denying them of that doesn't help anyone. It just causes harm.
But there is a reason why people insist on using this trans label. It is done so to deliberately collectivize thoughts in a particular group, and also to embellish the severity of problems that that particular group deals with. This kind of ties into the concept of hate crimes. There's no such thing as hate crimes. There's none. There are crimes.
There is no such thing as hate crimes. None. There are just crimes. So many things to say. So many things to say. And I am hoping that she further elaborates. So we'll get into it in a minute. I just needed a moment of stunned silence there for a second, because what the fuck? Okay.
So if we talk about transphobia in the context of, okay, this trans person was killed, what are you trying to convey? You're trying to articulate a sense of urgency or heighten what actually transpired to make it seem more severe than it actually is, or worse than it would be with another group of people.
It's the motive that matters. It's the motive that makes it a hate crime. It's the definition of hate crime is that like a trans person was killed because they are trans. If a trans person got killed in like a shootout that existed, like if there was a mass shooting that happened and there like was a trans person that was killed in that, unless it was at like, you know, a safe trans, like an explicitly trans space or like a queer space, then it wouldn't be a hate crime. It would just be like a tragedy that multiple people were killed and one of those people was trans. But that wouldn't be a hate crime. There are a lot of situations in which a trans person can be like a victim of violence and it not be a hate crime. But if the reason they are a victim of violence is specifically because they are trans, then it is a hate crime. And it does apply to other groups. Like, if like a woman is killed for being a woman, that is a hate crime. If a gay person is killed for being gay, that is a hate crime. If a black person is killed for being black, that is a hate crime. Like, it's about the intention. It's really not hard to like understand. I don't understand how you don't have a grasp on that. I'm confused.
And even if, let's just say for the sake of the argument, there was some type of killer that wrote a manifesto about how he hated trans people and he deliberately went out of his way to kill these people, it doesn't negate the fact that he still killed people. So saying that he killed trans people, it doesn't actually change anything. He's still killing.
It does. Oh my god. 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 Deep breaths. You cannot play the I don't see color card. You can't play that. You are the last person who can play that. Stop being obtuse. Stop acting as though you don't know the difference. Stop acting like this isn't important and doesn't matter. You can't sit here and be like, they're just people. It's all just people. It doesn't matter if they're trans or queer or black or Asian. Like, it doesn't matter. They're all just people. Yes, everyone is a person. We are all people. Absolutely. And because of that, firstly, no one deserves to be killed, right? Obviously. And that's why it is a problem when there is a specific group of people who are being targeted. And that is what we are calling out, is that like trans people are killed at a higher rate and they are targeted because they are trans. And that does matter. And that does mean something. And it's astounding to me to even try to sit here and say that it doesn't make a difference. Yes, it is a tragedy when anyone is killed, but there is a difference to someone being killed and there is a difference to someone being killed for like who they are, right? because that is showing like a pattern in the way people are viewing this specific person. It is showing that like if you are trans, you are more likely to be targeted. It is saying that we need to provide more protection for this group of people and like talk about why they may be more disproportionately targeted as victims of violent crimes. And that is why it is important to talk about hate crimes. If you want to stop talking about hate crimes and you want to make hate crimes not a thing and actually not real, we have to stop hating people. And if someone has written a manifesto about why they hate trans people and then go kill a trans person, obviously those things are related. Those things are directly related. What are you talking about? Ultimately, what I'm trying to say is that it is important to offer extra protection where extra protection is needed. Like, yes, all human lives are valuable, and it's not that trans people's lives are more valuable, it's that they are more at risk, so they should have extra protection.
Let's say, for the sake of the argument, I don't like a trans person. I say, I don't like you. And they say back to me, you're transphobic. Can I then say they're Christian phobic? Can I then say they're reality phobic? Can I call them some other type of phobic?
I mean, this is once again dependent. You say I don't like you to a trans person. Are you saying you don't like them as a person, or are you saying you don't like them because they're trans? Because that's two different things. If you don't like them as a person, who cares? That's fine. I don't like a lot of people. They could be trans. Doesn't matter. The problem is if you don't like them because they're trans. If you don't like them because they're trans, then yes, they're going to call you transphobic, and that would be true. And you can't then be like, well, you're Christian phobic for calling me transphobic, because they're not saying you're transphobic because you're Christian. They're saying you're transphobic because you're transphobic. And you are proudly transphobic. This whole video is you talking about how much you hate trans people. Why do you... This is what doesn't make sense to me. These people, like these conservatives, love to be so offended and be like, transphobic is a slur. You're being mean to me. How dare you say I'm transphobic? It's like, why do you care? I don't understand why you care. Why are you offended? It's not an insult. It's just what you are. It's a descriptor. It's the same as saying you're like short or you're tall. Like, you are transphobic. It's not an insult. It is a fact. Not using it to insult you, just telling you what you are.
It's because you fall into this category, we have to pay attention to you more. We have to take you more seriously. We have to protect you. It's inevitably creating this dynamic of oppressed versus oppressors. So in the pursuit of protecting trans people, even though they're literally just men or women that are struggling with their identity, you then make enemies out of half of the population. You can then use that for political gain. Because let's think about this for a second. Who do you think their political allegiance is normally reserved for? To answer this, all you have to do is consider how many times you hear political leaders talk about representation, inclusion, and diversity, and trans rights, and who tends to do that more? What political party?
I would actually argue it's conservatives. I would honestly argue that conservatives are talking about trans rights more than anyone else. I would argue that the political leaders that are talking the most about diversity and like representation and trans rights is the conservative parties. No one is more obsessed with trans people than conservatives are. So many people have been basing their votes off of their anti-trans legislations.
And everything's transgender. Everybody transgender. That's all you hear about. Now, that's why we won the election in record numbers.
There are now in the less conservative parties talking about like anti-trans. We in the UK, we have a liberal government, right? We did not vote in a conservative party, and still there are anti-trans laws coming into play. It's not a like trying to get power for the left. You are the ones who are using trans people and diversity to get power, not us. You came for trans people. We defend trans people. That's you started this whole thing. Trans people were just fucking living their lives, right? Like, I'm not saying that trans people didn't face struggles before. I am not saying that at all. Right? Trans people have always disproportionately faced oppression. That is true. However, in the past 10 years, there has been a massive increase in hate crimes against trans people within the past decade. Not because of the existence of trans people, but because of how conservatives decided that trans people were a target and started just completely coming at them, blaming them for everything and portraying them as predators. Like, it is conservatives. Like, you did not give a fuck about the existence of trans people before conservative political leaders started talking about trans people and blaming shit on them. You never thought of them. There are not that many more trans people now than there were before. But, like, you didn't give a fuck. Like,
You leave it the way it is. There have been very few complaints the way it is. People go, they use the bathroom that they feel is appropriate. There has been so little trouble. And the problem with what happened in North Carolina is the strife and the economic punishment that they're taking. So I would say that's probably the best.
Do you have any transgender people working in your organization?
I don't know.
No?
I really don't know. I probably do. I really don't know.
So if Caitlyn Jenner were to walk into Trump Tower and want to use the bathroom, you would be fine with her using any bathroom she chooses?
That is correct.
Okay.
Trans people are one of the most discriminated against groups in our society. And we're committed to updating the GRA to introduce self-declaration for trans people.
So you
and
don't
I
believe
think,
a trans woman is a woman?
look, a woman is an adult female, and the court has made that absolutely clear. I actually welcome the judgment because I think it gives real clarity.
here's the thing. In New Zealand, it was in 2012, I believe, when you could change your gender in your passport to X. Do you know how many people cared? 0. No one gave a fuck. I didn't even know that it was a thing. I didn't know that that was a thing that had happened because no one talked about it. That came in before gay marriage was even legalized. You could change your gender to X. No one talked about it because it didn't fucking matter because no one was impacted by it. If that happened now, if that change happened now instead, there would be a fucking uprising from conservatives because you suddenly decided that you care. Trans people did not start this conversation. You did. You did. You decided that you wanted to take shit away from them. That is what happened. And it's gotten loud because now there are people who are defending trans people. There are so many more people who are standing up for them because you are actively targeting them and killing them. So there is gonna be pushback. You didn't have to start targeting them, right? If you want the woke left to stop yelling at you and getting mad at you about how you treat trans people, stop treating trans people poorly. Stop saying they don't exist. Stop trying to take their rights away. And then we're gonna stop fucking yelling at you about it. Leave trans people the fuck alone. Like, you didn't care before. You didn't give a fuck until people told you to. All they want is to live their lives. That's literally all they want. That all we want is for you to leave trans people the fuck alone. That's it. That's literally it. We want you to stop hurting them. We want them to be able to, like, use the restroom that they feel comfortable in. We want them to have the same opportunities as everyone else. That's literally it. We are asking for bare fucking minimum and you decided that it was too much. Like, this is on you. You started this. Your party is so much more obsessed with trans people than we are. You're more obsessed with trans people than fucking trans people are. Like, you talk about people being trans more than trans people talk about being trans. And that's just, honestly, that's just a fact.
$8 million for making mice transgender. As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only 2 genders, male and female. That's why they want men playing in women's sports. That's why they want transgender for everybody transgender. But the weightlifting, but no, the girl gets up. When she gets it, and drops the thing, walks off the stage crying. Her mother's crying, her father's crying. Guy gets up. They said, "Have you lifted before?" A little bit. And he walks up, bing. He could have gone ding, 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 ding. I think it was 112 pounds, right? It's crazy.
Like, I am so sure, like, I don't know how to do this, but if you put in, like, speeches from political leaders from, like, conservative versus less conservative parties, you would absolutely find that conservative parties are talking about trans people so much more. So like, shut the fuck up. Shut up.
There is a higher suicidal ideation among trans people. Without that label, they can't justify this narrative. And by the way, it's no wonder that there is a high suicidal ideation with this particular group because, yeah, gender dysphoria is psychological. If not psychological, then spiritual. But they think fixing it is sacrificing these people to be eternal slaves to Big Pharma.
I love this conversation so much. Like, I love this argument so much because it always comes from these conservative Americans being like, trans people are like, they're just being told that they're trans and being put on hormones in order to fund Big Pharma. It is all just Big Pharma manipulation. You realize that Big Pharma's American, right? Like, you realize that privatized healthcare, that's your thing. We don't have that here. And guess what? Surprise, surprise. Trans people still exist. Trans people still exist in places where there is universal healthcare. And then when it comes to talking about suicide and how the suicide rate is higher amongst trans people, once again, completely ignoring the like most important part of this, which is the reason that suicide is so high in trans people is not because they are trans, it is because how they are treated because they are trans. People like you, gothix, you are the reason that trans people are killing themselves at a disproportionately high rate. It's not because they are trans, it is because they do not have access to the gender affirming care. It is because they get rejected by their friends and family. It is because they face harassment from society. It's not the fact they're trans, it is people like you that are causing this problem, especially people like you with an audience who like to sit there and empower people to spread this hatred and to harass trans people and tell them that they aren't real and contribute to the violence, the harassment, the denial in who they are. That is why trans people are killing themselves. So you can sit here and say that you have all these beliefs and you're saying all of this because you care about people. And you're like, this trans suicide is high and we don't like suicide. So what I'm going to do is make the problem worse. You can't sit here and try to act like you have any sort of understanding about anything if you aren't even putting in a second to like look into this because you don't want to take any accountability. If people are saying that trans people have a higher suicide rate, listen to why. Don't then try to use that as this is why trans is bad, because you will lose that argument every single time. It is people who tell them being trans is bad that are the reason they are killing themselves. So shut the fuck up and stop acting like you care about people.
Saying speech is the equivalent of violence. Speech is harmful. That's harmful rhetoric. That's hateful rhetoric, right? That looks like trans rights, but actually it's slowly eradicating free speech. And
I am at my wit's end with her. I'm like at the end of my fucking rope with this woman. Hate speech is equivalent to violence. It is equivalent to violence. You can sit here and say that you don't care if someone says something to you because it doesn't impact you. Good for you. I'm fucking happy for you. That does not mean the same for everyone else, right? Like, hate speech is equivalent to violence. It does hurt and it does have the same impact. It's like talking about abuse, right? Like emotional abuse and physical abuse. And a lot of people say that emotional abuse is worse than physical abuse. And I say what is true is that physical abuse cannot exist without emotional abuse, right? You cannot be physically abused if you are not also emotionally abused and manipulated. Why is this? Because if someone just fucking punches you unprompted, you're gonna be like, what the fuck? Why did you just fucking punch me? And you will know that it was not your fault, that you did not deserve that it was just this random act of violence that came out of nowhere, and you can walk away, and yeah, you'll be hurt, but like, it's not going to irreparably damage you because there was no cause for it. If you are punched or hurt by someone, like, yes, it hurts, but it holds a very different level of like trauma, right? And obviously that is circumstantial. But when it comes to like hate speech and hate crimes and such, right, like it's all entwined in this way of like, firstly, right, if trans people are being constantly abused, like verbally and like harassed from society, and people telling them that, you know, they're worthless, they're not real, that they shouldn't exist, and like such and stuff like that, right? Like they are going to expect to be attacked, right? Because they are living their lives being attacked. And when they then experience that violence, it hurts even more because they have been told that it is their own fault, that they deserve it, that that is what happens when they are themselves, that if they choose to express themselves in ways that make them happy, they are going to be punished for it, right? The physical abuse is so much worse when it is accompanied by the emotional stuff, right? Not only that, but the reason people are acting violent towards trans people is because of all the words that are being said, right? Like I said, there has been a massive increase in hate crimes against trans people over the past 10 years, and that coincides with the rise in hateful words that are being directed towards trans people. Those words empower people to be violent. There are always going to be violent people, but if you are giving them a reason to be violent, they are going to use that as an excuse to be violent, right? There are people that love to be violent, and now you are telling them that it's fine to attack this type of person. It is okay. Here's a reason for you to go be violent. These people, they're predators. They're harming people. They shouldn't be here. They shouldn't be existing. They need to, like, you know, hide themselves and not be out in society. You are making them a target. You are verbally and emotionally harming these people whilst you are empowering others to commit acts of violence against those people. Words have power. There would be so much less violence, like physical violence, if we had less hateful words. No one's trying to take away free speech. You can say what you want. You just have to accept the consequences for that. If you are saying something hateful, people are going to call you out for it. If you are empowering people to commit acts of violence, people are going to tell you that. They're going to tell you that what you are saying is harming people. Sure, you can say it, but people are going to be upset, and they're going to fucking tell you why. And you have to acknowledge that and be okay with that. Freedom of speech doesn't mean I can say anything I want unopposed. Because then you are censoring other people's speech, right? If you can say what you want, I can say what I want in response to you. And if I'm not allowed to do that, you are censoring my freedom of speech. Right? Like, be fucking for real and use your brain for a second, right? And if your words are empowering people to commit acts of violence, people are going to tell you that, and they're going to tell you that what you are saying is inspiring that. And if you choose to ignore that and say, well, words don't hurt, you are the problem. Take some accountability, because everything that you have said here has directly confirmed that you are someone who is actively contributing to the harm of trans people, whilst in the same breath, you say every life matters. And yet people are killing themselves because of things that you say and because of the things that you contribute to. People are acting violently towards people because of the things that you say and empower them to do, right? And like, yes, you are an individual, but you have a platform and you are inspiring your viewers to think this way, which is inspiring them to act in certain ways. You are a contributor to spreading a rhetoric that is directly harming millions of people. And you do it proudly. And then have the audacity to say, but I'm not transphobic. People are dying. I don't think people should die. Fuck off. I do not have words strong enough for the anger that people like this evoke in me, and the lack of accountability for the words that they say, and the fact that they just sit here and say all this stuff thinking that they're somehow in the right just because they like having any sense of power. They love that other people have been pushed down because now they are in a higher spot. You hating trans people does not give you any more power. You are not in a better position than you were fucking yesterday, right? You are still a black woman living in the US. Whether you hate trans people or not doesn't change that. It doesn't change the way that you're going to be treated because of that. And you can pretend that the way you were treated is not any different because of those two facts about you, but that doesn't make it true, right? And like maybe pushing trans people down gives you some sense of power and like allows you to, you know, feel more accepted by those who would typically oppress you, but they'll fucking turn on you too. You are someone who has directly had positive results from activism, right? Like your position in society has, you know, been made better because of people fighting, right? And you are aware of that. And yet, when you see other people trying to advocate for themselves, you think that it's okay to tell them no. You want to deny them their equal place in society because you think them having it means that you won't anymore. No one is trying to take anything away from you. She goes on and she says, trans women using the women's bathroom is taking a right away from her as a woman. What is it taking away? You can still use the women's bathroom. They can just also use the women's bathroom. And this, I feel like, is such a good example of this idea, right? It's like quite literally showing that she believes that when someone else has exactly what she has, she is somehow losing something. You are not losing anything, right? And it is the people who are fighting for and with trans people who will also fight for you if the people who you align yourself with one day decide to turn on you. Because keep in mind that the people that you are aligning yourself with are the same people who say they wouldn't feel safe if they had a black female pilot because she was only hired for a diversity quota. There's no way that a black woman could possibly be the most qualified person to fly a plane. It must have been for DEI. It must have been to fill a diversity quota. Those are the people you align yourself with. If you think they don't view you as less than them, you have something coming for you. And I'm sorry. I am sorry that you feel the only way you can maintain any sense of power is to belittle and oppress other people, but that doesn't help anyone, and it doesn't help you either. I just don't understand. I just do not understand how we keep having this same conversation and this same struggle over and over for different groups of people, for the same groups of people. Like, we have to keep proving people's humanity. We have to keep fighting for people to just accept that people are people. And it doesn't fucking matter. That's literally all we want. That's literally all we want. I just don't get it. You just want people to stay miserable for no fucking reason. I don't understand. And I will never understand. And it's so heartbreaking and devastating and frustrating. And I just wish this wasn't the way that things are. And I wish that it would get better. And I will keep fighting for it to get better. But my God, does it seem so hopeless at times. But hope is necessary. And I won't lose it. And, you know, even when, you know, some of you may lose hope, there's always going to be other people's hope that you can borrow. And there are always going to be people that fight for you and stand with you, even when it seems like there are so many people who are against you. And if you don't feel safe, I am incredibly sorry. And I hope at least you can feel safe here. And know that I support you and I am fighting for you and I am rooting for you as much as I can. Yeah, this video has been so much longer than I anticipated it being, and that's with me cutting out 3 videos worth of script. I got real mad. So yeah, if you want to see another one of these, please do let me know. And if you want to see me watch her documentary, please don't forget to leave a like. A huge thank you to my Kiwi Cat patrons: Bug Loves Cats, Kaylee, Kojo, The Beebs, Tess, Alicia, Myrail, Bree, Bay the Trucker, Chastity, Beckett, Prismatic PT, Sushi Kawaii, Phil the Duck, River, Queen Glimmer, Ella, Mr. Noodle, Radsack, Knitting Menace, Chris, Ellie, and Alexis. I love and appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe. Keep fighting. I love you. Mwah.